to Pawtucket Public Library in the children's room. My name is Miss Lyse, and I wanted to share a story time with you today. We have two books for you. The first is Winter Cake by Lynn Ray Perkins, and it is read with permission of HarperCollins Publishers. And our other book is Sadies' Almost Marvelous Menorah, and I'm going to be reading that with permission of Lerner Publishing Group. During the month of December, many people celebrate Hanukkah, so our first book is called Sadies' Almost Marvelous Menorah, and that will tell us a little bit about the holiday. You ready? All right, let's read. Sadies' Almost Marvelous Menorah by Jamie Korngold, illustrated by Julie Fortenberry. Reading with permission of Lerner Publishing Group. Sadie loved school. She loved the Hebrew songs the children sang during music, the wooden placing in the kitchen corner, and the reading nook with its comfy chairs and colorful books. She loved the boys and girls in her class, and she especially loved her teacher, Maura Rachel. One Monday morning at circle time, Maura Rachel asked the class, "Can you guess what holiday starts this week?" All the children chimed in at once. Hanukkah. She loved Hanukkah. She loved to spin dreidels and to eat potato latkes with applesauce. Most of all, she loved to help Mommy and Daddy light their Hanukkah menorahs. Maura Rachel said, "This week we are going to make our own menorahs." How exciting, thought Sadie. My very own Hanukkah menorah. Sadie couldn't wait to start. On Tuesday, Maura Rachel brought out big blocks of clay for each child. The children kneaded, rolled, and shaped their menorahs. Sadie used a pencil to poke holes in the clay to hold 8 candles. Then she rolled a small ball of clay, put one more hole in it, and attached it to the top. This was for the shamash, the candle used to light all the others. On Wednesday, Maura Rachel brought out different colors of paint. There was purple, blue, red, orange, green, yellow, and pink. The children put on their smocks and began to paint. They speckled and spotted and striped their menorahs. Sadie painted hers pink with blue squiggles. On Thursday, Maura Rachel taught the children the Hanukkah blessings, and they all sang them together. On Friday, Sadie ran all the way to school because today she would take home her pink and blue menorah. All morning she imagined how it would look on the windowsill in the living room. At pickup time, Sadie waited for her mommy to arrive. As soon as she saw her, she started to run, but in her excitement, she tripped and fell, and the menorah flew out of her arms. Sadie burst into tears and ran across the room into her mother's arms. "Mommy, Mommy, I dropped my menorah, and it broke into a million zillion pieces." Sadie's mother hugged her and said, "Let's see if we can pick them up and glue them back together." But even as she spoke, her mother could see that the shattered pieces were too small. There were pieces of Sadie's menorah in the dress-up corner, and pieces in the block corner. There were pieces under the snack table and pieces under the easel. Silently, the children began to help gather them. Maura Rachel placed all the pieces in a small plastic bag. As they left the classroom, Sadie noticed something near the door. "Look, it's the shamash," she said. "It is not broken." "Sadie, this is an extra special shamash," her mother said, "and I think that we can find an extra special job for it. You know that when we light the menorah, we use the shamash to light all the other candles. But how do we light the shamash?" That can be the job for your shamash. We'll call it Sadie's Super Shamash. Sadie picked up her little pink shamash and cradled it ever so carefully in her hands. That night, Sadie, her brother Ori, her parents, and grandparents gathered to light the first Hanukkah candle. They had decorated the house with drawings of dreidels, menorahs, and stars of David. The table was covered with latkes, donuts, and Hanukkah gelt. On the windowsill stood 4 Hanukkah menorahs waiting to be lit. Right in the middle was Sadie's little pink and blue super shamash. Sadie put a candle in her super shamash and Daddy helped her light it. Then carefully she used it to light the shamash on all 4 menorahs. And in Sadie's family, that is how the Hanukkah menorahs are lit, even today. The end. I hope you enjoyed Sadie's Almost Marvelous Menorah. Our next book is read with permission of HarperCollins Publishers, and the title is Winter Cake, and it is by author Lynn Ray Perkins. Are you ready? Let's read. What are you looking for, Thomas? Asked Lucy. Have you lost something? Yes, said Thomas. Yes, I have, just this morning. I fetched my fruits from my special fruit drying spot. Such a beautiful basket of dried up fruits. Apples, berries, and plums. Apricots, grapes, and cherries. And now I can't find it. I must have set it down somewhere, but I've looked everywhere twice. He looked around as if the basket of fruits might suddenly appear, but it didn't. Lucy looked around too. How mysterious. I'm just going to backtrack here because we missed the first page, which had some great illustrations. Where can it be, thought Thomas. Maybe I left it outside. He looked in the tall grasses and he walked around the house. What are you looking for, Thomas? Asked Lucy. Have you lost something? Yes, said Thomas. Yes, I have. Just this morning I fetched my fruits from my special fruit drying spot. Such a beautiful basket of dried up fruits. Apples, berries, and plums. Apricots, grapes, and cherries. And now I can't find it. I must have set it down somewhere, but I've looked everywhere twice. He looked around as if the basket of fruits might suddenly appear, but it didn't. Lucy looked around too. How mysterious, she said. I won't be able to make the winter cake, said Thomas. A winter's eve without winter cake. I ask you, what kind of holiday is that? The holiday isn't only about winter cake, said Lucy. I am bereft, said Thomas, forlorn. An icy blast lifted Lucy briefly from the ground. I'd better get going, Thomas, she said. It's starting to bluster. But don't be sad. We'll have a wonderful holiday. We always do. I don't see how, Thomas called out as she flew away. I honestly don't, he said to himself. Perhaps I should have invited her inside, he added, as the wind grew stronger and snowier. Fly safely, he said softly. He knew she could no longer hear him, but he hoped it would help. Worried, he stepped into his tree and shut the door. I hope you find your fruits. The gentle snowfall had thickened into a storm. Lucy flew into snowflakes the size of her face, and there were so many of them. She struggled to stay upright as frigid gusts tossed her this way and that. What did it matter that she could barely keep her eyes open? All she could see was white. Was she even moving forward, she flapped her wings harder, and then she fell to the ground. Lucy lay there stunned. For a moment, she could not move. Heavy flakes of wet snow piled up on her. She knew it would not be long before they covered her up completely. With a mighty effort, she struggled to her feet and leaned into the fierce winds. Amid the pelting snow, there were fragrant whiffs of something else, something friendly. Tea, she said aloud, cocoa and pastries. She listened and heard the faint, muffled buzz of cheery voices. Following the fragrant whiffs and the faint murmurs, she hopped through the blizzard to an opening between snow-laden boughs of an evergreen. She found herself at the door of a tea room. I'll just stop in, she said to herself, and wait for the storm to pass. Inside the tea room, everyone was talking about the weather. Snowy weather puts me in the mood for a holiday. I am thinking of hibernating, it's so weathery. Whether there is weather or whether there is not, this weather is nuts, right? Ha, ha, ha. It is holiday weather, that's for sure. I have never seen so much weather. This weather is good for business. The weather makes me melancholy, even with cakes. Found me a nice basket of dried up fruits this morning. Perfect for winter cake. Well, almost everyone. Lucy's ears perked right up. Lucy turned and saw a tall, sleek animal with small, round ears speaking to the server as he paid his bill. He held a basket filled with beautiful dried up fruits, apples, berries, and plums, apricots, grapes, and cherries. She couldn't hear all of what he said. It was so noisy, but she heard enough. Hastily, she paid for her tea and biscuit and hurried after the vile beast. I don't mind the weather, but tea is nice. There is always weather, just different kinds of it. Cakes make me happy. I like the pink ones. It's no joke. Ha, ha, ha. Any idea who it might belong to? If I had to guess. There is Thomas's dried up fruit. I feel as if someone is following me. Outside, the storm had ended as quickly as it began. I don't know what I'll do, but I must do something. I must be imagining. Already the winter sun was turning the top of the snow crisp and sparkly. But wait, what's this? The good-for-nothing fruit thief was knocking on a door. Thomas's door. The door opened and Thomas stood in the doorway. I think this may be yours, said the scoundrel. I found it in the meadow. Someone at the tea room told me where to find you. Oh my, said Thomas. Thank you so much. My pleasure, said the stranger. A holiday without winter cake is a poor one indeed. Good afternoon, then. The stranger turned and walked away, whistling a cheery tune. As he passed the bush where Lucy sat, he glanced up absent-mindedly and said, Lovely day, what? Lucy managed to close her beak. Then she opened it and said, Yes, isn't it? So many cardinals out today. Lucy fluttered down and pecked at Thomas's door. So many visitors, he said when he opened it. What a spectacular day this is. I am jubilant, extra happy. Lucy hopped inside. She told him her tale. I feel so foolish, she said. I jumped to conclusions. Everyone makes mistakes, said Thomas. I feel foolish too. I remember now that I set my basket down to catch snowflakes on my tongue. The first flakes of the season are the most scrumptious. I guess I forgot to pick it back up. Thomas smiled. How kind of him, though, he said. What a noble chap. Yes, said Lucy. Let's make him a winter cake, said Thomas. Yes, said Lucy. Let's. So they chopped, they sifted, they measured, they poured, and they stirred. They almost forgot the walnuts. More chopping, more stirring. They popped the pan into the oven and set the timer. While the cake baked, they sang songs and gossiped. The winter cake, when it came out, was a beauty. Golden brown with bits of color like jewels. It smelled divine. Thomas drizzled white icing over it, little like snow on a lumpy hillside. He lifted it onto a pretty plate and tied a ribbon around it. "I've thought of something," said Lucy. "What?" said Thomas. "We don't know where this guy lives," said Lucy. "We don't even know his name." Said Thomas, "that's true." The two friends looked at one another. They looked at the winter cake on its plate with its ribbon. They looked down at their shadows, blue shapes on the snow. A trail of crispy footprints led from where they stood away through the forest. "That's it!" cried Lucy. "We can follow his footprints." "Yes," said Thomas. "Off we go." And off they went. At first it was easy, but soon there were obstacles. "I am stout but nimble, I hope," and difficulties. There were icy streams and tangled thickets. Daylight dwindled. "How are you doing? You're almost to the shore." "I am buoyant, but only for a while." "Our friend must be an agile fellow. He is certainly slender." In the murky twilight, Thomas and Lucy did not see the precipice. "It's a sturdy winter cake, a resilient winter cake. It must have bounced on a pointy rock. The pretty plate was broken, but the winter cake wasn't. Maybe it was a mistake to travel so far. It's a bit farther than I thought it would be." Still, it was cold and dark, and they were far from home, lost perhaps. The shivering friends huddled together for warmth. "Thomas," said Lucy, "I see a light." "Is it the light of heaven?" asked Thomas. "No," said Lucy. "Well, maybe, sort of. I think it's from a candle or a small fire. Look." Thomas looked, and sure enough, a faint glow shone from a crevice in the darkness. Cautiously, they crept toward it. As they drew near, they heard humming. They arrived at the opening of a hollow in the bank. They peered inside, and there he was. He sat alone next to a stub of burning cattail. He hummed furiously and festively. Then abruptly he stopped. "It's no use," he said, "hum as I might. It's winter's eve and I am all alone. I ask you, what kind of holiday is that?" Lucy stepped inside the hollow. "But you're not alone," she said. "Gah!" shrieked the poor fellow, jumping to his hind feet. "Gah!" squawked Lucy, hiding her head under her wing. "Gah!" bellowed Thomas, flinging the winter cake into the air. It fell to the ground. This time it broke. "We come in peace," said Thomas, "bearing winter cake, which is in pieces." "Ha, ha, pieces, pieces. Get it?" "Oh," said the flustered stranger, "it's you and you. Oh, me, oh my. Come in, come in. Would you like some?" He looked around the bare, dismal hollow. "I'm afraid there isn't anything," he said. "I've only just moved in." "There's winter cake," said Thomas, picking up the pieces. "There's light, there's you, and there's us. What more do we need?" "It's only cake, after all." "Let's build the fire up a bit, though," said Lucy. They stepped outside and gathered sticks for a fire. Soon it burned merrily, warming them as they sat in its golden glow. "We traveled a long way to find you," said Thomas. "However did you come to be in our neck of the woods? And how did you come to be here? So what is your name?" Their host laughed. "I'm Tobin," he said, "and it all started with a mistake." "So many good things do," said Lucy. "Tell us yours." "An excellent winter cake. Stupendous." Outside the hollow, snow was falling again. Inside, a friendship was being born. Tobin's story was the first of many told that night, and for years and holidays to come. The three friends made a tradition of taking their winter cake to a bare hollow and telling stories around a merry fire. I ask you, what kind of holiday is that? A jubilant one, you might say. Extra happy. A a little bit mysterious, a wonderful holiday every time. The end. And that is the story of Winter Cake by preK. I hope you enjoyed these stories that I read to you today. And I thought this time of year it might be fun for you to make a little snowman. I put my snowman in a winter setting on a dark piece of paper, and I put out the moon and stars. You could also put your snowman against a blue sky. And so for this craft, you could come in and pick up materials at the library, or you can use materials that you have at home. I just used some cotton balls, glue, pipe cleaner for our snowman scarf, and googly eyes. If you don't have googly eyes, you could also just use a marker to dot the eyes for him. So you would just take a couple of cotton balls, kind of pull them apart and glue them down onto the paper. Shape it any way you'd like your snowman to look. And then you can draw, just gather a scarf to make around his neck. You might also want to add some arms for your snowman. That's up to you. And I used a yellow piece of construction paper to make the moon. You could do the moon or the sun. So again, if you don't have these materials at home, we're happy to provide them for you at the library. You could call for a curbside pickup for any of our holiday or winter themed books or for craft materials. And we hope to see you soon at Pawtucket Public Library. This is Miss Lyse, and thanks for listening.